So we've been looking at Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill for the last nearly 4 months. So it's a combined knowledge about how to become successful from some of the greatest minds of the 20th century. And it's a result of nearly 30 years that Napoleon Hill spent interviewing these great men. He had the great privilege of interviewing them. Okay. And Napoleon Hill, in this book, wrote 13 proven steps to riches, where riches are simply whatever you happen to want. Now, I have been playing in this series Earl Nightingale's recording on Think and Grow Rich, where he shares his brief view as he introduces this book by Napoleon Hill. Okay, you really need to read the book. Okay. But Earl Nightingale does not talk about chapter 15, which is how to outwit the ghosts of fear. So I will look at the last chapter and share some points guided by Sean Rosensteel. Okay. Good morning, May. Morning, Jeff. Okay, so here are some key points. I'm not sharing everything because it's really, really long. Okay, this last chapter, he shared everything, all his principles, but actually this chapter is the key to the whole thing, because if you don't get this chapter right, you will not be able to experience the principles that he talks about. Okay, in fact, some people think that this chapter should be right at the start. It's almost a prerequisite to all the other things. Okay, so as I share this, you will understand why I say it's so important. It's nothing new to you. I'm just emphasizing how important it is for you to practice these points here. Okay, so Napoleon Hill talks about 3 enemies. Okay, he says before you can put any portion of this philosophy into successful use, your mind must be prepared to receive it. And there are 3 enemies which you will have to clear out. In fact, he says you shall have to clear out. And these are indecision, doubt, and fear. Indecision, doubt, and fear. He says the sixth sense, that powerful sixth sense, will never function while these 3 negatives exist. Indecision is the seedling of fear. Indecision crystallizes into doubt, and the two, indecision and doubt, blend and become fear. Then he talks at length about 6 basic fears. Okay, I'll just introduce them to you. Okay, he says there are 6 basic fears with some combination of which every human suffers at some time or another, and he names them in the order of their most common appearance, and they are fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of ill health, fear of loss of love of someone, fear of old age, and fear of death. He says all other fears are of minor importance, and they somehow can be grouped under these 6 headings. Napoleon Hill says that fears are nothing more than states of mind. One state of mind is subject to control and direction. Physicians, as everyone knows, are less subject to attack by disease than ordinary laymen, for the reason that physicians do not fear disease. Physicians without fear or hesitation have been known to physically contact hundreds of people daily who are suffering from such contagious diseases as smallpox without being infected. I think if you look at the situation with COVID, it would be the same. Okay, he says the immunity against the disease consisted largely, if not solely, in their absolute lack of fear. So you want to read the book itself when he elaborates on all these fears, because he spends a lot of time on them. Then he talks about absolute control. We mentioned that in the last few sessions. Okay, he says nature has endowed man with absolute control over but one thing, and that is thought. This fact, coupled with the additional fact that everything which man creates begins in the form of a thought, leads one very near to the principle by which fear can be mastered. You may control your own mind. You have the power to feed it whatever thoughts or impulses you choose. With this privilege also goes the responsibility of using it constructively. You are the master of your own earthly destiny, just as surely you have the power to control your own thoughts. Okay. If you fail to control your own mind, you may be sure you will control nothing else. So when I coach people, I coach them first of all on controlling their own mind. And if you're an upline, or even if you're a downline, I can say, especially if you're an upline, the most important thing you can contribute to your downline is your thoughts about them. If you think that they are hopeless, if you think they cannot do it, if you focus on what is missing in them, you condemn them to that state. So be very, very careful about your mind. Your thoughts are the most important thing. Similarly, your thoughts about your family members when they are sick. What sort of thoughts do you have? Because you have the power to heal if you can control your mind. So Napoleon Hill goes on to say, mind control is the result of self-discipline and habit. Okay, so you don't have such a thing as someone who has better mind control than that. No, it is a result of self-discipline and habit. You either control your mind or it controls you. There is no halfway compromise, Napoleon Hill says. The most practical of all methods for controlling the mind is the habit of keeping it busy with a definite purpose, backed by a definite plan. Okay. So if you want to get rid of a bad habit, this is my sharing. Okay, if you want to get rid of a bad habit, it's no point thinking of how to get rid of it. It's you want to focus on having a good habit. Okay. So you don't want to be focused on putting off. You want to be focusing on putting on. Then automatically it will be off because that's your focus. Okay. Then he talks about worry. Okay, he says worry is a form of sustained fear caused by indecision. Therefore, it is a state of mind which can be controlled. Okay. During periods of economic unrest, such as the world recently experienced, and he wrote this 100 years ago, and today, we recently we've been through economic unrest. Today we're going through, even unprecedented economic unrest. So economic unrest seems to be a fact of life. Okay, so he says during periods of economic unrest, the individual is handicapped not alone by his inherent nature to be slow at reaching decisions, but he's influenced by the indecisions of others around him who have created a state of mass indecision. Okay. So he talks a lot about worry and how to deal with worry. Okay, I don't have time to go into all that, but if you are the worrying kind of person, go and look at that chapter. But then he goes on to say, kill the habit of worry, because habit is a worry. Worry is a habit that you are practicing. That's why you worry all the time. Kill the habit of worry in all its forms by reaching a general blanket decision that nothing which life has to offer is worth the price of worry. With this decision comes poise, peace of mind, and calmness of thought that will bring happiness. And you've been going through the scrolls. Okay, scroll 5 talks about don't worry about the past. Don't worry about tomorrow. Okay, scroll 5 is about I will live this day as if it is my last. Okay, so there are some tips there in scroll 5. Then he talks about vibrations of fear. He said even a dog or horse knows when its master lacks courage. Moreover, a dog or horse will pick up the vibrations of fear thrown off by its master and behave accordingly. Lower down the line of intelligence in the animal kingdom, one finds the same capacity to pick up the vibrations of fear. It says, a honeybee immediately senses fear in the mind of a person for reasons unknown, and a bee will sting the person whose mind is releasing fears. The vibrations of fear pass from one mind to another just as quickly and as surely as the sound of the human voice passes from the broadcasting station to the receiving set of a radio. So we talked about, the mind being a broadcasting station. Okay, energy is also broadcast. Okay, And he talks about this thing called kickback. He says the release of destructive thought impulses alone, without the aid of words, produces a kickback in more ways than one. So if you've got negative thoughts, okay, it has various implications. Okay, um, one of which, okay, is that any destructive emotion develops a negative personality which repels people and often converts them into antagonists. Okay. So this is the, I suppose this is the law of attraction, or the opposite way the law of attraction works. Okay. Any source of damage to the person who entertains or releases negative thoughts, another source of damage to the person who entertains or releases negative thoughts lies in this significant fact. These thought impulses are not only damaging to others, but they embed themselves in the subconscious mind of the person releasing them, and there become a part of his character. Okay, so it's very, very dangerous. Okay, this is just a reminder of the kickback. Okay, and he talks about the seventh basic evil. He says, in addition to the six basic fears, there's another evil by which people suffer. It is more deeply seated and often more fatal than all of the other fears. And he says, for want of a better name, let us call this susceptibility to negative influences. Okay. So we are influenced negatively. Okay. And he says, men who accumulate great riches always protect themselves against this evil. Okay. So now riches, I say it's not just money. Okay. So if you look at riches as health, okay, you want to have great health, you need to protect yourself against all these things that would influence great health. Okay, so it's about protection, and about negative influences. Napoleon Hill says sometimes it enters the mind through the well-meant words of one's own relatives. At other times, it pours from within through one's own mental attitude. Okay, you think negatively of yourself. Always, it is as deadly as poison, even though it may not kill as quickly. And then lastly, he talks about this master key, okay, which we have talked about. He says, previously you may have had a logical excuse for not having forced life to come through with whatever you ask, but that alibi is now obsolete because you are in possession of the master key that unlocks the door to life's bountiful riches. This master key is intangible, but it is powerful. It is the privilege of creating in your own mind a burning desire for a definite form of riches. Okay. There is no penalty for the use of the key, but there is a price you must pay if you do not use it. The price is failure. Okay. So it's about that burning desire. Okay. So, I'm just repeating things that we have talked about, but really, there are 13 principles here, and he elaborates on these principles, and they're really, if you look at them, they're intertwined. Okay, so the rules for life are very, very simple, actually. Okay, in fact, in life, to succeed in life, you just have to love God and love your neighbor. Okay, then you define for yourself what is life. Okay, so we've understood the four crucial characteristics of a leader, isn't it? Or some people call it the four crucial characteristics of success. Okay, compelling desire, and that is the master key, burning desire. We talked about compelling desire right from years ago. Those of us who did Asia Works. Okay, compelling desire. The second crucial characteristic is solid belief. When you have solid belief, it will overcome indecision. It will drive away worry. It will create positive thoughts because you have such, you have such great belief. And if you listen to Tanner Gibb on Saturday talking about reset, my goodness me, what indecision is there going to be? Okay, about taking reset, because he has solid belief. And effective action is what you do to avoid negative influences and avoid sending out negative vibrations. Okay, so go through this again. Read the book definitely, because these are keys for you to become rich.